to another episode of The Platform. I'm Togsy, no Warwick with me tonight, something different, out of the studio and actually back home on the Gold Coast, where I grew up and worked in radio and then started making a web show, travelling around the world doing all kinds of interviews, and I just love stories, and some great stories tonight on the show. And we begin with Noodle Simone Green. Here she is. Noodle, thank you so much for being on the show. It's fun to have you on.
Thank you.
I love doing a show about stories, and we've been Facebook friends for a while, and when we first became friends, it wasn't me just going, oh, she's a gorgeous girl. It was like there was this little story on there, and I was like, is that you? And you said, yes, it is. It was all in Thai, so I couldn't work out what was going on, but can you tell our audience what I found that day?
Alrighty, so I went to see Lion, the movie, in 2016, was it?
Yeah.
And it was a story about Saru. And I just remember feeling exactly the same thing about the whole adoption process and what he was going through. And I slightly envied that he had gone through the process, and I kind of wanted to have that same feeling, empathise. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So it was him. He made me find the drive, and I became hungry for what he had experienced. So
your backstory before you saw that movie is pretty full on, isn't it? And what was written in that Thai and that post was like almost made me cry when you told me about it. Like, what was written on that post about your story?
So it said something about, I'm trying to remember what, said something, hi, my name's Noodle. I'm originally from Thailand. I was abandoned on the streets of Bangkok, and I've been given a bit of information that I've had translated. So this is the information. My mum's name, which was in Thai, where she lived, which was also in Thai, and the hospital that I may have been abandoned at. So with that very little information, I had translated it, put it into English, posted it on Facebook, and let the whole world help me try and find these fine details that I had. So
you were, at what age did you realise that you were abandoned as a baby at a hospital?
Straight away. As soon as I understood English, my parents told me that I was abandoned, that I was in an orphanage, and that I had been adopted. So as soon as they adopted me, they told me the story. So how long were you in the orphanage for? About 4.5 years.
So you're a little baby growing up there.
I was 5. I just turned 5 when I was adopted.
Wow. So how did your Australian parents find you? Like, that's probably a crazy story.
So my mum actually worked for an adoption agency at the time, and she did a lot of the Southeast Asian areas, and I think she just happened to come across me and fell in love with me straight away. And I was quite old. In the orphanage. I was one of the oldest there. I think that may have been because I'm a mixed race. So it's one of those things where they really push the Thai children out there. And I've been told that, especially back in the 80s, that if you had mixed race, they didn't want to send evil into the family. So that's what I was told. Whether it's true or not is another story. That's why I was like one of the oldest there. So I was about 2.5 when my mum found me, and she was going through all the papers, and she's like, you know what, I'm ready to adopt. She had previously lost her own child when he was 18, so it took time for her to, get through all that. But when she found me, she knew she was ready. So she's like, that's it. I'm going to adopt this child and bring her back to Adelaide, and she's going to be my daughter.
Wow. So what was life like in Adelaide growing up then, with a backstory like that?
Initially it was hard to adjust. I had to learn to adapt to Western culture. I didn't speak a word of English, and I was put straight into school, so that was really tough for me. I did get bullied first couple of years, so that was really tough for me. So I learnt about racism very quickly. I also learnt to gain trust, and also learnt how to adapt quickly to different situations. But I think my parents helped me by including me into extracurricular, like dancing, to try and strengthen my social skills. And there I learned to develop, to progress, and to excel in something that I am now really good at and make a living out of. So I found my confidence within me, and I think that really helped to get into the swing of things in Australia.
So there's a bit of your backstory, and then we get to this point where you hear about the movie Lion, which is an incredible film, and you go and see it with your backstory, and then what happens at that point?
Well, as I've told other people, it was a very cathartic experience. I left the cinemas thinking, wow, that made me feel so inspired, and I was ready. Before that, I was really disconcerted about the whole idea of trying to figure myself out, trying to find my identity and knowing the unknown. And I was worried about my parents as well, what they would think, because it was quite close to the bone for them. So I didn't want to upset them in any way. But I knew I had to do it at some point because there was almost like a hole in my mind, in my heart. So when out of the movies, I was like, the time is right. Just got to do it and go for it.
Such an inspiring story, and you will not believe how it all ends up, and we'll find out when we come back from the break. Welcome back to the platform and our chat with Noodle Simone Green. Such an incredible story, and here's part two.
So you leave a movie theatre and you're like, okay, I've just seen this incredible film about this guy that's adopted to Australia. He goes to India, uses Google Maps and somehow finds his mum. So you don't know where to go, but you make this post and you just put it on Facebook, right?
Yeah, so as I said, I received a few Thai paperwork when I was adopted, and I managed to get them all translated to English. So with that very little information that I had received, whether it was 100% correct or not, I wasn't sure, but I decided just to put what I thought was important and essential down in the post in Facebook, and I just sent it through, not knowing the response I was going to get. So just with one name, one address, and the hospital name that I may have been abandoned at, that was enough for the whole world to reach their hands out and help me.
And so what happens? Like, do you start getting messages from people in Thailand? I mean, I know a TV station in Thailand picked it up, right, and started promoting it.
Absolutely. That went viral, actually. So they have I think it's Channel 3 over there, they have like a Today morning show.
Yeah.
And they did an exclusive, like a 2-minute story about this Aussie model trying to find her biological mum in Thailand. So that helped a lot. And I had a lot of investigators, a lot of Red Cross people, authorities, even police and locals, and then friends of mine that I have worked with in Thailand. They all reached out and gave me advice and suggestions and how to go about doing things and contacting the right people. So, you know, I took my time and kind of like just figured out what was necessary and contacted the right people and got a couple of translators to help me out throughout the whole process. The translators were actually situated in Melbourne, so that helped me out a lot. And we went from there, just calling away and asking some valuable questions that only a mother and daughter would know about each other.
But, okay, so this story breaks in Thailand, it's viral, it's out there, you're trying to find a mum that you haven't seen since you were abandoned at a hospital, you've had no contact whatsoever. All of a sudden this post is going out there, and then how long did it take before news started to come through? Was it straight away that someone said, I think I might know your mum, or was there false starts, or what happened?
It was overnight. I had 2 potential leads where one happened overnight because one of the names matched and it was in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Another one came a bit later on, about 4 weeks later on, and she was about 20 kilometres away from Bangkok. And I thought both of them were plausible because one may have moved, one may have stayed. So that's when I decided to do a DNA test. So I organised a DNA kit to be sent from Australia to the two addresses, and then one of them was willing to do it, whereas the other one wasn't. And the one that was willing to do it happened to be in Bangkok, and within 2 weeks we got the results. And it was a match.
It's unbelievable. So I just can't get my head around the fact you go see a movie, you want to sort of complete and heal this hole in your heart of knowing that you've got your biological mother in Thailand. She's taking the tests and they're positive. And then I remember you basically excited. You went over there, right? Tell us about that. That is like crazy.
It was one of those things where once I had found out the results, I didn't think. I just did. I think I was worried. I'm a person that can digress. I can be over analytical. And I know that if people start to intervene, then my mind starts to wander. So as soon as I found out about the results, I just booked some airfares, jumped on a plane, and just went there. And it was a very daunting, surreal experience, but I'm glad I just did it without thinking about it. It was one of those things where I had to.
I saw the pictures on your Facebook of, I remember the day, I was kind of excited following the journey. I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to see these pictures. So what was it like for you when you're going to meet your mum for the first time really in your life?
I was scared. I was very worried that, I don't know, I didn't know what to expect. When she first walked into the foyer, there was almost this unspoken communication where we just connected. She didn't speak English, I didn't speak Thai, but we just looked at each other and we just instantly knew that we were connected, and it's obvious that she was my mum and I was her daughter. And I think to me it was a sense of achievement and belonging, and knowing that I've done it. And enough is enough. Like, enough wondering, enough fantasizing, enough, just curiosity. Enough was enough. I've done it, and there she is. I've achieved something, and I know who she is now. And I was worried that she may not have been alive, so that also healed me as well, knowing that I managed to say hi and tell her that I was fine and what she did was fine and that everything was fine. And I'm happy that I did that.
Oh, man, it's such a good story. It's like Lion Part 2. What's it like now then? I mean, because there were other family members, right? Have you got brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have a half brother and half sister and a nephew as well, little Mickey. So, yeah.
That's so cool.
Good.
That's so cool.
We didn't speak English or Thai, so we did a lot of...
You don't really need to, do you? If you have that situation where you just want to see your mum again and have a hug, really, I mean, you don't need to speak the same language.
Absolutely. She kept stroking me.
She's probably so stunned at how gorgeous you are.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It just goes to show you that anything's possible with social networking, and that's really what you used, right, to make it happen.
Yeah, that was my saving tool, really. Facebook.
Awesome. And by the way, why do they call you Noodle?
So when I first arrived to Australia, my parents tried to introduce me to Western food, and all I'd wanted noodles. And Dad would give me a burger, be like, noodle. Give me a sandwich, I'd be like, noodle. And I was very adamant on my noodles.
Wow.
And I think it sticks in this industry that I'm in as well. Because people go, who's this noodle that everyone's talking about?
Yeah.
So it's a good nickname to have as well.
Awesome. Well, Noodle, thank you so much for being on the show. Your story is incredible, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Toxie.
So there she is, Noodle Simone Green. Super fun to have her on the show, and what an incredible story. And up next, something super random, another story I found online. We'll meet Gwyneth Lee. She is very fascinating, and you'll find out why when we come back.
Hey guys, Togsy here from the platform. We have a great young team of people that put the show together every week, but we couldn't do it without our sponsors, and they are UltraTune. Sean and the team, thank you so much for backing us. Carlision, Huss and the guys, the best car repairs in Australia. RS Chase Lawyers for all your legal needs, and Property Direct AU. Sam and his team will look after you. Thanks guys for supporting the platform, and now back to the show.
Welcome back to the show, and something now that is completely random. Everything about it is pretty random. I saw a story on Facebook, I think it was a link from a newspaper, about a lady making $50,000 a year from people worshipping her feet. And I started Googling and I thought, that's a crazy story. I'd love to get her on, and we swapped messages. Gwyneth, the feet belong to Gwyneth Lee. And we swapped messages on Facebook. We jumped on Skype, and here she is. About this fascination that dudes have with your feet.
You know, it's something that's been around a long time. When I was in my teens, I was a model in California, and I used my feet, and I was a foot model, and I didn't think anything of it till I went to Europe and started learning about lots of different cultures with feet. And I was photographing all these vacation pictures in my travel, because I travel quite a bit for work and pleasure. And I just had so many people responding well to my feet that I started posting lots of pictures of just my feet. And then I created my own Instagram account and immediately got lots of followers. And, you know, I've traveled a lot around the world. And the one thing that I have noticed is, for example, in African and Caribbean culture, women's feet are very important to them, that you can tell social status by their feet. And, you know, for example, if I was to meet a black man, the first thing he'd probably do, you know, some men look at different parts. They'll always look down at your feet, because I noticed a lot of my girlfriends, my Caribbean girlfriends in London, always wear open-toe shoes. They said, yeah, he's got to know where I'm at. And in Arab, yeah, right, crazy, yeah? And in Arabic culture as well, if you show the bottom of the feet, it's an insult, or the bottom of a shoe, it's an insult. And it's just kind of been a funny learning curve. I'm just fascinated by all the people that just like the soles of my feet.
That seems like a pretty interesting lifestyle. Can I ask about the journey that you've been on?
Life has been a crazy, crazy journey. So I'm originally from Southern California, from San Diego. And I met my late husband in California. He was a golfer. He was there on business. And I was a resident in the Netherlands and stayed with him until he died. And stayed there, lived throughout Europe, and lived in London. So it's been a bit of a crazy ride. But I did have, I think, the stories you're probably referring to is me as being a mistress to married men, I would assume, right?
Yeah, leads into that.
Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just kind of the story. I mean, I had an open marriage with my late husband. I was his fourth wife. There was no hiding it. We had a large age difference. We had a 20-year age difference. And as someone's fourth wife, you know, no one is fooled into thinking that they're married a saint. And, you know, of course, any man who marries a woman who has the courage to marry a man and be his fourth wife probably isn't a saint either. But yeah, we had an open marriage, and after he passed away, I tried dating on vanilla sites or regular sites and just didn't find it great. So I went on a married site and started having affairs with married men, and I just liked the dating better and just stuck with it.
It must get interesting at times, because I saw an interview you did on a UK breakfast show.
Yeah. Oh, God, that poor journalist. I thought she was going to cry.
Yeah, it was it gets intense, because it's like a pretty touchy subject, and because you're so open about it, you must get a lot of pretty interesting feedback.
I agree with you, Andy. I mean, I think the biggest thing was the website in the UK is called Illicit Encounters, and the reason I went on that website, which was the controversial one in the UK, was I was living with my partner at the time, who was 50% owner of a Formula One team. So here you have this wealthy, powerful man with his finger on the dial of one of the greatest sports internationally. We're flying around on jets, this and that, and due to, you know, terminal illness, he became impotent. And I was trying to spice up our marriage, see what we could do, because the Viagra and the Cialis and all those other drugs were working. So we started going to swingers parties. And, you know, that kind of somewhat, but then it reminded him that I was still young, and we had a 28-year age difference, and he wasn't young anymore. And so I went on a married dating site. He said, listen, you do what you got to do as long as it's discreet. Went on the married dating site, took a lover, and just stuck with it. It was great. It was fun. And, you know, the part that they didn't touch on that morning show was something that, you know, would explain to a lot of people. I mean, people say, oh, you're a husband stealer. I'm not stealing anybody's husbands. If it's a dating site, two people chose to be there. I didn't go searching for them and put them there. They were already there offering themselves. And my partner was terminally ill, and I had permission to go and date men, and married seemed safe simply because basically, you know, they were looking for a discreet solution. I was looking for a discreet solution. And, you know, it is what it is.
I'm scared to ask this because I love asking people about like interesting stories and stuff and best moments. But what's the craziest thing you think you've done?
Jeez Louise, what do you call crazy?
I don't know. I'm scared, but excited to hear.
I mean, it's you know, there's so many things that can be interpreted as crazy. I mean, I'm on the kink, you know, I'm a kinky girl. I've had affairs with married men where I've taken them to swingers parties and they'd never swung before. I had an affair with a quite conservative Scandinavian businessman where after a year into our affair, he thought he'd introduced BDSM to our relationship and said, "Have you ever heard of this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm dominant." And he was like, "You're kidding." And I said, "Why don't we book a dungeon and find out?" And he became obsessed with it. And I mean, it got to a point where I once took him to a dungeon, tied him up where he was hanging from the ceiling suspended, threw water on him, electrocuted him. And then that evening, sent him out to a charity dinner with his wife.
Do you ever get bored if you meet a guy and you just want to sit on the couch and watch a movie and like cuddle and kiss?
You know, I had a dog, and I did that with my dog. I spend a lot of time with my family, and quality, loving, caring time with my mom and my brother is important to me. But sitting on the sofa, cuddle and kiss, I suppose, you know, that would be nice. But, you know, I think the problem that women run into, and not necessarily men, and it could just be my experience, is that the more interesting a woman is, the more difficult it is to find a partner. I think that there's a lot of men who are looking for probably a polite term would be a little bit of a softer woman. I mean, I'm an alpha female. I've had businesses and traveled the world, and my sexuality is strong. So that's quite intimidating for most men. And then throw in the fact that I'm kinky. And I've dated some severely wealthy men. I mean, my late husband owned a factory in his country that supplied jobs for many people. I dated a Formula One owner. I dated an astronaut who was one of the people who walked on the moon and is still living. And,
wow.
You know, so throw those in there. And, you know, I can meet a nice guy and go, "What do you do for a living?" "I'm a dog walker." And he'll be like, "Oh, how sweet." And then we go to dinner and he's like, you know, starts talking to me, and I can't hide my life experience. And that's, for some men, intriguing, and some men terrifying. And so, you know, the married men are easy. They're just thrilled to have me when they get me.
Wow. How do we find you online for our viewers?
Oh, it's super duper easy. Gwyneth Lee. It's the Welsh spelling, Gwenethlee. And I'm online. I'm easy to find. I have about 4 or 5 Instagram accounts. I have a Facebook page. I'm all over Twitter. I'm easy to find. I'm kind of a, you know, jack of all trades. I've got my foot fetish, dominatrix. I organize adult lifestyle parties. I'm in Puerto Vallarta now for a hotel takeover with a lifestyle group called Luxury Lifestyle Vacations. And yeah, I'm the in-house dominatrix this week. So you'll probably see, if you go to my Facebook, lots of images which I'm allowed to photograph.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, look, thank you so much for the quick chat for our show. It's been great to have a chat with you.
It's been great talking to you, Andy. Thank you for your time.
So there you go. What a wonderful and random world we live in. Thank you so much for watching the show. Don't forget to check out our socials, theplatformtv.net, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.